All right, fellas. We expected a good round one. I think we got an exciting one. We're back with a BCP podcast. Derek with Quick Cuts, Matt with Flex Sports, Preston Jackson, Big County Preps. Let's jump right into it. Surprises for round one. Any surprises? Either scores were tight, upsets, anything you thought that jumped out at you right away from round one. Matt, start with you, man.
Yeah, I know. Last week we talked about some of these rematch games that we saw earlier in the season, and there were some big blowouts, and we were like, we definitely talked about last show how these teams are going to come back a lot stronger than they were in that first place, and with that Wharton Armwood game, we saw Wharton really come back strong, and they made it a game. Same thing with the Plant City. It looked like Plant City came strong and made it a game. Riverview Sumner, that was another match. I would have thought that Sumner would have kind of had some more points on Riverview, but it seems like they have a nice, healthy team right now. So to see that being a closer game, and as you get into these playoffs, these teams are coming strong and they really want to win. There's a lot more passion in these games. I've noticed a lot of these seniors. That's been one of the hardest things too, to see like some of these seniors take the loss and now their season's over. So that's been some of the bigger things that I saw this past playoff week.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's hard to beat a team twice, right? It's hard to beat a team twice. Sumner edged out Riverview this playoff game. And thank you, Riverview, for having a good season. It was fun talking about you this season. Great way to kind of get back on the map because you were there a number of years ago, but it's good when Riverview has a good season. So appreciate the Sharks. Plant City, right? Plant City got dogged by Plant earlier during the regular season, and then they came back well prepared, and I believe it was a 3-point victory for Plant. Okay, so really nice right there. And then Wharton and Armwood, right? That was a close game. We all agreed that Wharton was going to come well prepared. It was a 2-score game the first time they played with a postponement where they continue the game on Saturday, and then it was a 1-score game this time around with Armwood victorious. All good games. I'll give you a few that jumped out, and I kind of want to discuss one with both of you. The first one I saw, just looking over some scores, was number 6 Dr. Phillips upsets number 3 Olympia 17-15, right? And then number 2 Fort Meade is defeated by the number 7 seed Booker. So you have a Fort Meade, Polk County, always good. And if you know anything about Fort Meade, they are annually a very good program. They may have had a dip for a few seasons, but they're a 10-win team for a long time. So Fort Meade and then Sarasota Booker, right? They've always kind of been pushed aside down there in Sarasota. So they get upset. They came in as a number. They upset the number 2 seed in Fort Meade, who had a fantastic season. Now, the one that I want to kind of open up to you, Derek, I want you to kind of jump on this one first, is Tampa Catholic defeats Robinson by 4 scores. It scored 35-7. Yep. That was a 1-point Robinson win in the regular season. I have not seen film in that game. I think Tampa Catholic obviously came in motivated and prepared. And the way Robinson has played all year long, it was no way I thought that would have been a 28-point spread, D. Just give me your instant feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, without watching the actual game, it's that one definitely jumped out as probably the biggest shocker of them all. But like you say, when two teams play each other once in the regular season and then again in the postseason, just like the other part of the surprise was Plant City being so close to Plant. But if you remember when that game originally happened, we talked about the talent matches up. Plant City against Plant. That talent is right there, just matches up well together. And sometimes, just in the nature of a game, you get a team that just, you have a mistake or two here or there. Next thing you know, you're down 14, and now you're a one-dimensional team trying to come back, and it makes it hard. So sometimes those big scoring games where a team gets blown out in the regular season, it kind of gives an indication like that's, that one team is so much better than the other. So, and that's often not the case. And I think that's what we saw with Plant City and Plant. Now going back to TC and Robinson, I mean, it is one of those shockers, but they happen. And all it takes is a team to get down and then out of their game plan, and next thing a turnover here or there, and you're down 2 scores, and now you get out of your game plan, and things can go wrong in a hurry. And then you're pressing and you're pressing and you're looking at the clock, and next thing you know, you're at halftime, deep in the third quarter, and it's just you really become uncharacteristic in what you went in there planning to do. So, sometimes it happens, and I think that may have happened in that game. I haven't looked at it, haven't watched the film yet. I'll get around to it, but I would be curious of what happened in that game. But that definitely caught me by surprise. Thought Robinson had a lot of momentum heading into the postseason. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But another, you want to talk about surprises. I think the theme of, and not all of them were close. You had a number of close games. You mentioned Sumner a second ago. And that Riverview game was very close. I mean, hell, we had a 1v8 seed. The one of the other shockers, Lake Mary, only beat Boone by 2 or 3 points, and I thought that was interesting. But Lake Mary's offense is going to show up. But I was shocked to see Boone, keep that game so close and come down to the wire. So, but yeah, it's playoff time. You never know what's going to happen, and it's what kind of makes it so fun sometimes. So.
Matt, talk to us about that TC game.
Yeah, man. What I'm thinking when I see TC in person, and when you look at them on paper, they're just that group, that bunch of kids, or that you have just more recruiting players. You have the higher star. You're just a little bit better athletes on Tampa Catholic. So I've been waiting for this team to really come together, and I think when they played Jesuit kind of exposed them a little bit and made them go back to the drawing board. And it just so happened that Robinson was our next victim. And, Robinson has done really good this year, but when you kind of compare team for team, they're a little bit younger group of kids. So to compare them to Tampa Catholic, I would expect Tampa Catholic, being that most of their star players are seniors, a little bit bigger, recruits in the area. So I'm actually really liking to see this Tampa Catholic come together. Because I really saw these components in the spring, and you have TJ Moore, you have we interviewed their quarterback, he's done really, really well this year. You have Eddie, their O-line, you have just a really great group of kids, and it just so happened that Robinson was their victim that they end up beating, and they looks like they came together, and that's how they had such a high score. I'm excited to see their matchup this week. They're going to have to go against a strong Berkeley Prep. However, Tampa Catholic, if they can, like I said, they have a really great group of kids on that team. And if they can really pull together, they're going to give Berkeley Prep a struggle as well. But, we're in the playoffs. Anybody can win, especially both of those. That's going to be a game to watch this Friday.
Well, let's jump right into. No, let's not do that. I want to stay on round one, and I want you to give me one or two of the toughest round one games. And the reason being I want to kind of hit this is because you got teams from different areas, and they may come in as a top 1, 2, or 3 seed. But then you got teams like Wharton who come in at a 7 seed, and their schedule is monstrous, right? So now they run up against teams, and I'm just throwing Wharton out there, for example, who's battle tested, right? Do they deserve to be a 7 seed? Only because of win-loss record. But their schedule says they should probably be a higher seed, right? So that's kind of want to kind of hit it. Like if you're 1, 2, or 3 seed and you run up against like a Wharton in the first round, that sucks. You know what I mean? That ain't good. And since I'm on it, I'm gonna toss 3 out at you. Number 3, Barron Collier versus number 6, Port Charlotte. All right, Port Charlotte won that game 68-31. And remember now, Barron Collier was a 3 seed going in. Okay, so they get knocked off. Arnwood and Wharton, we've been talking about them. Arnwood comes in as number 2 seed. They beat Wharton by 6 points, 1 score game, 20-14. Wharton was a 7 seed. That's a tough round 1 game. And then number 3 seed, St. Pete, and we talk about Gaither a lot, versus number 6, Gaither. Gaither wins that game 42-14. St. Pete was a 3 seed. Gaither was a 6 seed, but Gaither's schedule was a handful.
Yeah,
so
we pegged that game too.
Yeah.
me too. We kind of figured Gaither was going to take that, but yeah, you're right.
Good job, Gaither.
Their record slates them in at that high seed. Next thing you know, they're going to, you don't want to tangle with them come the next round, and that's what happens sometimes with these, these tough schedules and records. They bury some of these best teams in the 6, 7, 8 seeds, and it's Gaither was definitely one of those teams right there.
Man, it's almost like bait and switch. Like when you get the seeding, you're like, hey, we're a 3 seed. You're thinking you're going to be all right first round at least. And you mess around with Gaither and you get dumped on in the first round.
Yeah, 42-14. Same thing with Gaither. You really look at their team and, we've talked about the strength of schedule. So you're absolutely right. You can't, judge a book by its cover. You got to go to these playoff games week by week, expecting to play a really, really hard team. Hoping your team's, they're strong, they're healthy. But yeah, every team that we're going to start seeing right now is going to just really, they're going to put it down. These seniors do not want to end their career, their high school career. So they're going to really push to get to these next games. So you catch an emotional team that really has bonded together this week against another team that really might have just kind of, we're going to beat, they're a 6 seed. Yeah, that's when that 6 seed beats the 3 seeds, absolutely. So that round 1 was pretty nice. You saw Jesuit. Even Hillsborough versus Northeast was only a 1-point game. I mean, there was some battles in the field this past Friday, and it's just going to get more tough and more tough as we go.
Yeah, Pinellas County showed out, man. Usually it's Hillsborough County with the advantage, but I'm not sure what the total numbers were, but it looked like Pinellas County held their own against Hillsborough this year.
Yeah, right? They did well, man. So give me, either one of you, give me your toughest round 1 game.
Mm-hmm. Toughest round 1?
Yep, toughest round 1 game. What do you think was the toughest round 1 game?
Are you saying for one of the for
a 1, 2, or 3 seed?
I think St. Pete. I think St. Pete going against Gaither. I mean, that was a local one that we kind of focused on last week. That I think we all anticipated Gaither taking that one. That to me locally was probably one of the biggest ones. The toughest one from week 1.
Gaither's like that team. Like if you know, and it kind of looks like St. Pete just came in and just kind of judged it and was like, but yeah, we that would probably have been like the most toughest game because of that reason. When these different city teams come play each other, and all you can really count on, is their record and some of their stats and stuff. So you can look at Gaither and expect to be a weaker team, and then they just come and just smack you hard. Yeah.
All right. Well, eventually somebody's about to win the state championship, but the debate that has always been is should there be a private school champion and a public school champion? Mm-hmm. Is it fair? Is it apples to apples having some of these schools, these private schools, not necessarily that they play by different rules, but they have different liberties, if you will, versus these public schools who can't play by the same rules, don't have the same liberties, and they don't have the same kids to choose from?
Yeah, Robinson.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about Robinson and TC, and I think even a few weeks back we talked about the Robinson kids. I mean, they get their kids from that South Tampa area, and so yeah, I mean, Robinson TC is a good example of a public versus private. I'd be down for something like that. I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at Pinellas County and just locally. You've got your private programs in Pinellas and in Tampa. I think it would be a good idea. Maybe even go to like a big city private school bracket and the smaller areas. But yeah, I think when you get into the St. Thomas Aquinas and some of the programs down south, some of the programs in Orlando, Jacksonville, Trinity Christian up there, I think it'd be nice to have a private school bracket and let these guys battle it out. I think it'd be intriguing.
No, I agree. It's funny you guys said that question because at the game this past Friday, that was something one of the players had mentioned. They're like, man, it would be cool to see, some of the private schools all playing each other. And especially when you talk about the South, you have all these private schools down there that are really great. It'd be cool to see, like Chaminade Day versus STA, so it'd be cool to kind of start seeing those group up like that. you know, a lot of the excuses sometimes is the recruiting and stuff like that that some of the private schools can kind of get away with, where public schools. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to watch them play, but I think it would be a good thing to see maybe like a private school type of championship versus a public school type of championship, and then breaking it down to bigger private schools versus the smaller schools.
Well, I heard you say the R word, Matt. You like recruiting. Hey, we'll list it as uh interest, being able to create interest in that private school, because by
Yeah,
rule nobody
recruiting.
can recruit, right? By rule
Yeah,
nobody can recruit. I'm gonna take this a different direction. I'm gonna go to the resources available. All right. And not all private schools are made equally. They don't all have the same resources, right? They don't. However, the more, let's just say, the ones that probably do, that got a little bankroll, that got a little cash in their pocket, what happens is it's a lot easier to entice good coaches to schools who can offer a higher stipend. The state of Florida loses coaches all the time over the state line because we don't pay them. We don't pay them a lot of money, right? It's like volunteer work. You got a little baby stipend that you're able to give a guy, and he's coaching almost 270 out of 365 days. All season, um, summer training, 7-on-7 season, and guys are still involved, not just in the fall. And you're paying them under $2,000 to do that, right? So you're talking about pennies on a dollar every day. It's a lot easier if you're able to pay a coach, even an assistant coach, $5,000 to $10,000 to be an assistant coach on staff, right? Rather than a measly $1,200 for 270 days. The type of coaching that you're able to get at those spots is probably going to be different now, right? So let's just call it in sense better coaching, for lack of a better term. If you're able to get better coaching at an institution, more coaches at an institution, you in theory probably will have a better result on the field. Okay? It's a lot easier when you have good instruction to coach a team of players, like I said, with better instruction. Now there are those that have and have not, and every school is not made the same. Some of these schools who I had the liberty of going around to a lot of different schools, seeing a lot of different practices, and they're not all made the same. You could tell coaching staffs who kind of have a really good idea. You kind of see coaching staffs who probably need some work. They need those workshops. They need to be under better coaching staffs to learn. They just don't have the same personnel. Then you can go places. You can go places like some of these really good private schools, and they got 10 to 15 coaches, two
Class
coaches per
trainers,
position. Yeah,
nutritionists. Yeah, they got nutrition
absolutely, man. And the
guys.
facilities, resources,
Yep.
all that stuff's different. Okay. And can we find exceptions to the rule? Absolutely. But you would think that when you have more to offer, then you can get a better result. And I think that's the biggest argument. And that's the argument I would make, is that there are some private schools that are playing at a different level because of what they have to offer. Okay. And it's a lot easier to get good instruction. And then B, if you want to go down enticing kids to want to come to your school, yeah, it becomes a lot easier rather than you're playing public schools who, for real, are only allowed to play with their zone kids. With choice coming up now, hey, obviously kids are able to choice into a school, but that traditionally is not the way the public school system works. So I would say my argument is just the resources available are not the same across the board.
Yep.
yeah,
No,
that
I,
makes
I
sense.
would agree. I mean, Preston, you know how much traveling I've done. I think there's 600 high schools in the state of Florida that play football. I think I've been to 550 of them. And I tell you that the year that Miami Northwestern went out to Dallas South Lake Carroll and beat them, I went down there that year and picked up their film, and it was breaking it down. This is way back in the VHS days, and I remember I may have taken you. I took you down to Miami Northwestern one time. When I parked at practice, I parked on the basketball court, literally on the basketball court. The chains, they don't even have nets on the basketball court. It's chains. Half of those were hanging down. The kids were walking out. Now, this is the number one team in the country, and they were about to go up and put a whooping on South Lake Carroll, who hadn't lost in, I think, 80 games. And I'm watching Miami Northwestern's team come out. They didn't have matching practice jerseys. Half of them were ripped. They had to crawl through a fence just to get to the practice field. One kid stepped in sand spurs, got sand spurs on his feet, crawling through the gate. And I'm like, man. And then they flew out to Dallas and put a beat down on a team that had 17 coaches. They had they got training facilities. They've got nutritionists on staff. So yeah, it is crazy. And I remember saying that was the haves against the have-nots. And it was great to see our Florida team put a whipping down on the Texas team. But yeah, there's a lot of programs still to this day that, I'll travel around and it's crazy. I remember one time I went to Land O'Lakes High School, and I think the AC had broken in the locker room. And when I went in there, the kids were doing their clean and jerks and squats out in the dirt, on the grass and the dirt by the parking lot. And I remember going to FAMU High School up in Tallahassee many years back, and me and the coach walked by the training facility, and in their workout room was a handful of weights, dirty laundry, and an ice machine that had been plugged in. And I'm like, this is where the kids train. And it was just crazy. But yeah, I've been around and I've seen a lot of crazy situations with high schools, and to see some of what our kids have. I wish they had more facilities to work with, because then I've traveled around Texas and Georgia, and they've got indoor pole vaulting facilities. I mean, it's insane. But yeah, so, and I've taken you on some of those trips, right? You remember some of that?
Yep.
That I'm talking about.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. When you've got the ability to have 11 to 12 high end assistant coaches on your staff, compared to having volunteer guys show up on their own dime, and it is a struggle, but it just shows you the passion that these coaches have in the state for their kids, and then how good our talent is that we can spit out 400 kids a year that sign Division I. It's pretty staggering, quite honestly. But yep.
And the easy way out of this is always to kind of point at, you look at a school like St. Thomas Aquinas, and their coaching staff is littered with like ex NFL players, ex pros, ex college coaches. And then they have, it seems like, handpicked 5-star, 4-star, 3-star athletes across the board, right? And then every year they're matched up against some public school, and you're like, yo, this public school didn't have a chance, right? How are they supposed to beat them? And then the score is what it is. And then this argument comes up every single year. It's like, bro, they're a handpicked school. What do you expect school X to do versus St. Thomas Aquinas, right? And that's just, I know I'm kind of calling out STA, but they're just they're the low-hanging fruit at this point in time.
No, you Chaminade. MacArthur High School and Chaminade are about 100 feet from each other. And
right.
And if you're good at MacArthur, you're going to be at Chaminade. You better, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it makes sense. And it goes for a lot of the private schools. Benjamin and Dwyer. I think Benjamin and Dwyer's property backs up right against each other. And Dwyer used to be a powerhouse many years ago, and now Benjamin's one of the top private schools in the state, and Dwyer had a rough year this year. So yeah, it's absolutely an issue. I don't know if it's an issue. It's a fact of life. I would love to see.
All right. So what if it's not an issue? Let me hit you with this, Matt. Let's just say it's not an issue. Let's say this. Let's put it like this. Would it add more legitimacy to a state title if like schools played like schools? So this private versus private, right? If you had a STA, a St. Thomas Aquinas, play a Chaminade, right?
Benjamin,
right.
Miami Pace, Tampa Jesuit,
correct.
Miami Columbus. Yeah.
There.
Yep.
Would that add more legitimacy to a state championship instead of having a STA playing a Tampa Bay Tech or a Plant High School? You chop at it first, Matt.
I think overall, yeah. But we have seen, same thing, any given Friday, you could see these public schools go and beat a private school, kind of like what Derek said, Northwestern traveling over to Texas and beating a big school that's fully funded. I think that
Should they have to though? Should they have to?
no, that's why I do like the if they separated the championship. That being said, thinking about a private school, they're going to naturally be more funded. I would say people like, let's just think of America in general. Your like top echelon of earners, are going to probably send their kids to a private school, and then especially if it has a good team. So now you have maybe a lawyer or a doctor that's like excited about this team. St. Thomas Aquinas, just for example, just for fun, Rick Ross's son plays for that team. So you have these private schools with parents that are going to fund as much, whereas in public schools you're not really getting that funding. But with that being said, it's possible that you see a public school, rally up and go beat one of these private schools. But in the grand, to answer your question, I think it would be a better to kind of separate the two. You have your private school championships, you have your public school championships, and then you have the different classes. You have depending on their season and their wins in the last couple of years, we'll division them up. So you would see Chaminade Madonna versus St. Thomas Aquinas, stuff like that. So the idea is great to have it, but absolutely to your point, you're gonna these private schools are more funded. They're gonna have bigger gyms. They're gonna have more. They're gonna have better drip. I mean, from everything the football program can offer a kid, it's gonna be just a little bit better being at a private school versus being at a public school. And I think sometimes that motivates kids seeing. I talked about this, to some of my entrepreneurial friends. And, when a kid grows up, they say like the 5 closest people that you're around, you're going to be the 6th. And if you're growing up around, let's just say doctors and attorney kids, possibly it gives you maybe more something to strive for to maybe be a doctor and attorney. But, when you come up like where I was raised up in like a Sefner area, Armwood, parents are going to be more like, your mechanics and maybe low paying jobs. And so essentially we might not strive to be a doctor and attorney because that's not really what we've seen in our community. And so, the different levels to that does play a role with the kids that are going to go to your school. That was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to give back to public schools was, I'd go and see a team play and they would have mixed match socks, for example, or they'd have gloves, the same gloves for the last 4 years. I still see that to this day at some of these public schools, and I've seen private schools where they're like, well, yeah, Nike came by last week and they gave us all new cleats. They gave us all new gloves, so sometimes they get favored a little bit more. But nonetheless, you can see a Miami Northwestern public school go and possibly beat a private school. So either way, I think it's a good idea to possibly split it up between the both. But
I don't know if I really stand if I really stand on either side. I just think it is a legitimate argument to have, and there are legs to it. There are reasons why you understand why teams would feel that way, why people feel that way, and they're understandable. So I guess that's the best part about it is that this time of year you'll start having those arguments because you're like, yo, how is this team going to lose? How is that team going to lose? How could they knock them off? This James Wilder is not walking the same hall and playing hallway and at playing high school anymore. How is that going to happen? So when people poo-poo on the argument, I'm like, hold on, calm down. There are legitimate reasons why that argument is a legit one to have. Okay. Now, the postseason's progressing. We call it the second season. The second season's progressing. And we've got these round 2 games. And the cream is going to have to start rising to the top. And these better games are about to get played. So let's look forward to round 2. Give me a few round 2 games that you're like, yo, this is going to be a good one. Either of you flip a coin. I'm gonna hit Matt. You look like you're prepared. You ready? You're biting at it.
Yeah, man.
What is the sexiest round 2 game?
Whew, man, that Tech and Armwood game is going to be bananas. And it's going to be like, it's hard to beat the same team twice, what we've been talking about in the show. And then I'd like that Edgewater Jones seems like a good one too, man. So this round 2, things are starting to get sticky. We're going to start seeing some battles. I think that Berkeley Prep Tampa Catholic will be great. I noticed when I was looking at some of the the smaller schools in the 1S and the 2S, they're going to start their round one this week. They have a smaller schedule and stuff, so they're going to start their round one this week, and we'll see how those things kind of play out. We've been talking about the private school versus the public schools, but so some great matches this week. Definitely try to tune into some of them if you guys are watching.
Hey, before you leave off, Matt, before I let you go and hit Derek, I kind of want to ask you real quick about, because you've seen a lot of both these teams. Take me to the Sumner and Durant rematch, all right? And we kind of hinted on this a few times. Yeah. But do you feel like this is going to be originally we probably thought that this would be a larger gap because Greg was playing in this game, all right? We kind of say, hey, let's just be real about this. Greg not playing in that first game makes a difference. So Greg playing in this game is going to make a difference. However, looking at the Riverview score, 33-28 Sumner from round one, do you think this round two game between Sumner and Durant is going to be close also?
I think it's going to be close. I think if I had to guess it, based off what happened the first game, I think this is the game where Sumner is coming at Durant's head. There's going to be a very strong Sumner team, possibly that you didn't see. I think when they played Riverview, it was just kind of one of those, they kind of, same thing. They kind of judge it, hey, it's Riverview, we've already beat them. But I think their eye is on Durant. They didn't like losing to districts to Durant. And they're in their locker room right now talking about it, and they're rallying up this week. And I can tell you that if Durant does not come 100%, it's going to be very tough to beat Sumner. Now, I do think it's going to be a closer game. I don't think that Sumner is just going to just have this crazy blowout, but I'm thinking it's going to be probably like a 10-point spread.
All right. Derek, I got a slightly different question for you. Which is the better game? Edgewater Jones, 1 seed Edgewater versus 4 seed Jones, okay? Or number 2 seed Armwood versus number 3 seed Tampa Bay Tech.
Well, honestly, they kind of they mirror each other, quite honestly. You've got your big city Orlando powerhouses, and it's a mirror image. You've got your Tampa, powerhouse situation going on. They're right down the road from each other. I think there's a lot of parallels between those two games. I think both of them are going to be pretty amazing to watch. I haven't done a deep dive in. Yeah, I haven't done a deep dive into the round twos yet, but those absolutely jump off as great games. We talked about the 1v8s last week, not 1-8-1, and we kind of expected that. We had a hard time trying to pick. Okay, if you had to pick one, and it wasn't easy. Well, all that round's done with. Now we're down to where those teams that slid backdoored into the playoffs really are no longer there. So really that second round is the first round that which all teams are really should be there. You know what I'm saying? So I think all these matchups are going to be nice. You just talked about Durant and Sumner. Man, that's going to be just a great game. We've got a lot of backyard neighborhood type of brawls. A lot of these kids grew up playing youth ball together. In the south end of the county. How many kids at Armwood and in Tech grew up playing against each other, and you can bet the same things for Edgewater versus Jones. Those kids all grew up playing ball in Orlando. So it's an interesting round because everybody's still kind of in their own backyard playing against kids that they grew up with. So after this round that'll change up a lot, but that's kind of what I've noticed on the second round just talking about it. Got a lot of teams that just grow up right next to each other. So
one of you guys mentioned it about the seniors. We're going to get ready to tap out of here, but it just brought back bad memories for me. So just alert to the seniors. My senior year, we're 12-0. Lakeland comes to us. They're 12-0. Long story short, they are up with seconds left on the clock. They're up by 5 points, okay? Less than the score. We're not going to be able to get the ball back. And it was the first time, obviously we're 12-0, so we hadn't lost. It was the first time a team kneeled the ball 3 times on us. And it's almost the worst feeling in the world knowing there's nothing that you can do. You got no timeouts. You can't get the ball back. And this last knee is going to kill your high school career. So, moral of the story is seniors, take charge of your locker room, take charge of what's happening on the field. The last thing you want is to leave regrets on the field. And I'm telling you, you would rather lose by a miracle play than have a team kneel it out on you, because that's just like, you can't do nothing. Your hands are tied behind your back, bro. It's like one of the worst feelings in the world. So, fight to the dog's end, do what you got to do, and good luck to everybody round 2. Derek, Matt, give us your last shout outs.
Yep.
Yeah, man, good luck to all the seniors out there. We're going to definitely try to follow all the Tampa teams all the way throughout to the state championships and support you guys. Make sure, you guys tune in and like and subscribe to the channel, BCP. And we're going to make sure we keep you guys updated. It's been fun. We'll see you guys next time.